What's the deal? What's the deal? Y'all already know who it is. I'm on Asharenu. We back in here once again. All right. So today we're going to talk about the necessity of war and the ending/beginning of cycles. So we're going to let everybody come in. So let me see if I got some theme music for y'all. Let me see. Let me see what we got. We got the theme music, of course. Here we go. What's up, Moon Spirit? What's up, Rob? Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, we definitely we cleaned up today. What's up, the Prime Ascension? What's the deal? What's up, student teacher? What's good? I'm sweating like a pastor at church right now. Right? Giving the word of God. I appreciate everybody who fucking with the cut. You know what I mean? I appreciate it. Right? You already know how we get down, right? Just letting everybody come in. Alright. I appreciate it, everybody. You know? We gotta keep the appearance up, as y'all know. We gotta stay fresh, we gotta stay fly. Y'all see that sweat though, right? Y'all see that? Y'all see that sweat? It's real out here. We out here working on it. So we fly, but we still out here working. You know what I mean? Whole shit is sweaty. But anyway, we gonna get it in. We about to get the lighter, yeah. So check out this. Yeah, that's my shit. Anyway. Let me show y'all what we're working with. A little mini altar. It's a little mini altar. A little mini altar. You already know what energy we channeling in. Light up. We gonna get it started. Just a couple minutes. We're just getting ready. What's up, Marvin and Magi? Marvin and Magi in the building. What's up, Marvin and Magi? Who else in here? What's up, G-Star? What's up, Brianna? Student teacher? What's up, everybody? We're gonna be getting started in just a second. We on that Dubai shit, right? We're reporting live straight from the desert, Hermione City. Alright? We get started in just a second. What's up, Psychosexual? Nice to see you in the building. What's up, Trey? What's the deal? Homie? I hope you ready for Monday. I ain't forgot about that. I hope you on your shit. I hope you preparing. But anyway. So hopefully everybody is good. I got the tarot cards for y'all. We're gonna go through it, right? So we just pumping up. We're just getting it in. Hopefully everybody is good. We're gonna take one more puff and we're gonna get started. We're gonna get started. Okay, we out here working. All right. All right. We official. What's good, everybody? Everybody in the building, I appreciate everybody tuning in. So again, like I said, we out here working. You see the sweat. Exactly, you know what I mean? We out here working, so, I mean, let me push it down like this. So the title of this video is called The Necessity of War, the Beginning and Ending of a Cycle. Now, why do I say war is necessary? Because whenever we're dealing with war, we're dealing with the fire element. Let me show you. The perfect symbolism of war is the tower. The true title of the tower is war. So the true name of this card is war. And as we see, it's a lot going on, but that's not the first card we're going to go into. I'm just giving y'all an example of what I'm talking about. The first card we're going to actually go into, we're going to go into the fire element. I'm going to present y'all the offering. Here's me presenting the offering, right? Here we go. There's the first card. It's called the Aeon. I just want to make sure y'all can see it from every angle. The Aeon. This represents the fire element. As you see, the triangle right there, the upside triangle represents the fire element. This represents Shin. This is a Hebrew letter. It represents Shin. You also see the Hebrew letter within the card right there. You see the prince on his throne, and you see his feminine nature. Anyway, just want to let y'all get a visual so y'all can follow along. So remember, when we're dealing with that skull talk, when we're dealing with the dark side, we're talking about purification through fire. See, religion purifies you through the waters, right? Baptism, you know, Jesus walking on water. It's a lot of water references. But whenever we're dealing with that skull talk, whenever we're dealing with the occult, the underworld, we're dealing with purification through fire. So this is the raw fire element, which represents the Aeon. The Aeon represents the beginning of the new cycle, which we are into now. Whether you want to call it the age of Horus, the new age just represents the age of Horus. The new prince has taken this throne. But we're going to go through the cycle. So this just represents the beginning. As you see, all of these deal with the fire element. We have the emperor, we have lust, we have art, we have fortune, we have the sun, the tower, and of course the Aeon. All these are dealing with the fire element from a different perspective. And we're going to go through each of these perspectives. When we're dealing with the purification through fire, we go through this phase. So let's go into it. So remember, the new Aeon represents pure fire. Now, we place this aside. We just place this in the back. Now we go into the tower, which represents the energy of Mars, which we see right here, the symbol of Mars. So this represents a level of purification. You see the all-seeing eye, or the eye of Horus, the eye of Shiva. When the eye of Shiva, or the eye of Horus, or the eye of Ra, there's various titles for it. When the eye is open, all illusions will be destroyed. So the opening of this eye represents the destruction of illusion. So we see a dove, we see the serpent on the other side, the dove, the serpent, we see the castle, we see the spirits, the people being turned into spirits. They have no more physical form, they're just geometrical shapes. And we see the mouth of this shooting out the flames. The mouth of disc through the word creates flames that destroys the tower. The tower just represents the old age. The tower represents the ending, the destruction. So we saw the new aeon, but before we get to the new aeon, the old paradigm must first be destroyed completely, leaving not a trace. All people are being destroyed. The castle itself, the temple itself, the destruction of the temple is being destroyed. The only thing that survives is the dove and the serpent, which are both the same energies, just different degrees on the scale. The highest of the scale is the dove. The lowest of the scale is the serpent. Now, when we think about high and low, we're not necessarily, talking about good or bad. The reason why the serpent or the snake represents the lowest of the low, because we know that the snake crawls on its belly. However, when that serpent becomes enlightened, that's why you see a sun around the serpent. Around the serpent's head, you see like a halo or a sun, because it represents the serpent has become enlightened. So we're not talking about the serpent that's crawling on his belly. As you see, the serpent is not crawling. The serpent is actually in position. It's standing up. It represents awareness. What's up, Oshun? Oshun is in the building. So we see that the serpent is rising his head upward, representing enlightenment. The serpent is enlightened. Therefore, it can perceive the dove. The dove sees all of this destruction going on, but the dove is unaffected because it is able to fly over all of this madness, because the dove already has the eyes of truth. It can already see ahead. So the dove remains unaffected. The serpent, what it does, it makes the serpent rise off of his belly. The serpent has risen off of his belly and became enlightened at the opening of the eye, which is causing, on a human level, the destruction of old paradigms. So Mars, when the energy of Mars is channeled, it represents the ending of the old paradigm, and how destructive and how necessary the destruction is. So this is a stage in war that must take place. There's no way around it. The destruction must take place before the birth of the new aeon. Now, let's go to, let's not do that, all right? So let's move this over here, all right? You don't want to shatter that. Let's take it to the next card. Now we're dealing with the energy of the sun. So we left from the energy of Mars. What's up, Aiden? Aiden game 5. So we left from the energy of Mars, and now we enter into the energy of the sun. Now at this stage of the purification process, we see that we have these fairies, right? So you can say this is a symbol of an enlightened human being. What's up, profoundly dignified? The human being with its wings, which represent transcendence. The wings represent transcendence. We also see that all 12 of the zodiac are around the sun, because the sun is the center of the solar system, right? We are all solar systems. So we see these fairies or these babies with wings, which represents enlightenment. They have a sense of self. Why? Because they're pulling from the source. They're giving praise to the source energy. And everything else, all 12 of the zodiac, everything is giving praises to the source. And we see that the source represents a flame. So the source of all things represents a flame. Purification through the fire. It is through the fire that we come back to the awareness of all 12 of our aspects. We are all things in one. You see, one source that creates two dualities, the masculine and the feminine, the positive and the negative. And from those two polarities, we get the 12 zodiacs, right? We also see the rays of the sun touching the corners of the card. So that means the rays of the sun can penetrate through all forms of matter. So the source, whenever we think about the source, whenever we think about the soul is truly a flame. So whenever we think about, well, what is the soul? What is the soul? The soul is a flame. The center of every atom represents a flame, right? But this flame, unlike Mars, that same flame is a symbol of destruction. And the sun, that flame actually brings harmony to all things. So when this stage of purification, it represents the flame bringing harmony. So it can bring destruction. The same flame can cause destruction, but it can also harmonize all things. Because it does. That's why it's called a solar system. For a reason. Because that solar power, that soul power, that's why the sun is also spelled S-O-L. The alchemical spelling of the sun is S-O-L, which is called the soul. And the soul is the flame. But the soul and the praising of the soul, that means that positive and those negative energies are working together harmoniously, giving praise to the flame. Now, what's the next phase? Now, these are not necessarily in order, but I'm just showing you the various stages that we have to purify ourselves through the fire. Now let's go to the energy of Jupiter, as we see right here. This is the energy of Jupiter. This represents fortune. So now we're talking about the celestial plane. So we don't see no remnants of human activity here. So let's take it a step back. So we see this level, this purification of fire. What's up, gold? Gold in the pill. This stage of fire is affecting the human level, the earthly level, we can say. The things that are within our awareness is being purified by the fire. So you can say this is the last stage. The purification through the fire in this stage is affecting the zodiac. And those who have consciousness, those who have awakened their wings. So this isn't necessarily dealing with the everyday human being such as this. This is dealing with the everyday human being that constructs the temples, the religions, all these things. This is the everyday human being. This is what's going on for those who are enlightened. Those who are enlightened perceive this as this. Those who are enlightened see this as an ending, but it is also the birth of a new age. So those who have awareness are actually in celebration of the flame, versus those who have no awareness are being destroyed by the flame. So we see just depending on the levels of consciousness will determine what we're able to perceive. Now, going back here, fortune, we see that it's taking us to a level of the greater cycles. So these are talking about greater ages. So we see a wheel in the middle. And on this wheel, we have three phases. We have the apex, we have the top. We have the monkey. You see the monkey right here on this side. The monkey is climbing up. Then we see the typhoon down here going out. So in other words, this represents all things are in a constant state of motion. Meaning every phase that we go through is the beginning of a new phase and the ending of an old. Right? So the apex of the lion represents the destruction of the typhoon. The destruction of the typhoon represents the uprising of the monkey. They are all interconnected, and these phases are always in motion. So the energies of Jupiter, because it is a fire planet, is a cool flame, but nonetheless it is a flame. That's why it represents the sex chakra. It does represent a flame, but a cool flame, a flame that can be altered. We also see lightning bolts. If we look deeper into the card, we see lightning bolts. The lightning bolts are emanating from these stars at the very top. So you see a house of stars. You see a constellation of stars. And you also see, we see these etheric dusts. So as we see these purplish waves of energy. So we see various things. So Jupiter is expanding because Jupiter represents expansion. The number 3. We see that on this level of purification through the flame, we're looking at the greater cycles. Now we're looking at the unseen laws. You can say we are looking into the universal laws, right? So Jupiter is allowing us, Jupiter is allowing us to get insight into the greater mysteries, the things that we don't see, the grander cycles, those cycles that happen every 2,000 years. Those cycles that happen every 26,000 years, right? Those greater cycles. These are the cycles you can say that happen every 100 years. Like, because we are in the new age, because we went from the 2nd millennium to the 3rd millennium, the 20th century to the 21st century. That happens every 100 years. So we were alive to witness the 20th century go into the 21st century, which happens every 100 years. These are talking about the 1,000-year cycles, the 100-year cycles, and Mars represents the wars that we live through, the everyday cycles, the day-to-day cycles. So this is all representing different phases of the purification through the flames. Now those were the planets. So this was the planet Mars. This was the planet Sun or Sol. And this was the planet Jupiter. Now we're going to go into the zodiac. Now what's the first zodiac we're going to? Sagittarius. Sagittarius represents the energy of art. Art represents the polarities, the merging together of polarities. You can say all art comes from a dark place. All music comes from a dark place. Music represents the transmutation of dark energy. So although music, can make you feel various emotions, it is a transmutation of dark energy. So we see the polarity. We see these two women working together, right? They are actually not separated. Then we see these two animal spirits. She's mixing in a chemical mixture. She has a halo in the back. She also has a crescent. So you see the halo, the solar halo, and you also see the crescent. There's the crescent right here, the solar halo. So the merging of the solar and lunar energies, the mixing together of the dark and light. And this is how art is manifested through the polarities. So we see the fire, the flames are being cooled by the water. The water is not destroying the flame. The flame is not dissolving the water. They are actually working together harmoniously. So you see, in one hand she holds flames. In her other hand, she holds a grail, which represents the water. So she's able to bear flames as well as the coolness of the water. So you can say that water is freezing cold and the flame is scorching hot. And she's able to bear both of these elements in her hand because she has mastered the elements and learned how to work together with them. So instead of looking at these elements as two separate things that cannot work together, like, okay, they're a contrast. How can two contrasts work together? She has figured out the secrets of how two contrasting energies can work together harmoniously and create a third element that is very similar to the two elements, but has its own unique signature. This new third element has its own unique signature that is alike the two elements, but also unalike. So that third element that is being produced from the mixture of the fire and water, we say is air. Air is just like the fire, also like the water, but also has its own unique energy signature. So now that we are dealing with the zodiac is going into, okay, now we're going from dealing with this pure flame, right, in the form of a cycle, in the form of a sun, also in the form of an eye, right, in the form of an eye, in the form of a sun, in the form of a cycle. Now that pure flame has been introduced to its contrast. Now that this flame has been introduced to its contrast, it doesn't try to neglect the contrast. The two contrasts learn how to cooperate and merge together in unity. And that's what the zodiac sign Sagittarius represents. Because it's half man, half horse, I believe. I believe the symbol of Sagittarius is, half man, half horse. That's why the Sagittarius symbolizes the two contrasts. The same thing like the Sphinx. Half man, half lion, half woman, half lion. The animal nature and the human nature. Right? Now, taking it a step further, now we're going to deal with the energy of Leo. Now that we're dealing with the energy of Leo, we see that Leo represents the energy of lust. So we know that Leo is ruled by the sun. So the sun is being represented by this great beast. Most people will be afraid of this beast. However, this beast is very intriguing. That's essentially what lust is. Lust is the thing that a lot of people are afraid of because it is so alluring. They are afraid because they may get sucked into it. In other words, people love to hate lust. You love it because it's alluring, but you hate it because sometimes you get lost in the purification process. Remember, we're dealing with the fire. So in this stage, this represents the fire and water coming together in the form of, as we see here, we see the sperm cells hitting the egg. Sperm cells hitting the egg. We see the sun and the moon once again. See this crescent right here. We also see this dot, which represents the sun. And she's harnessing all this energy in her hand. So she's harnessing the energy of life. The sexual and creative energy she holds in her hand. And in her other hand, she holds this great beast. So the mixing of the fire and water, the masculine and the feminine, the birth process, the creation process, she holds in one hand. In another hand, she has his beast tamed. She also is bared naked, representing that she has transcended in the sense of, you can say, because she represents pure fire, she just can't bear the weight of wearing clothes. She's so hot that she cannot bear clothes. Just imagine being so hot, you just want to take all your clothes off. She represents that state. I believe that's what happened when people do PCP or angel's dust. I believe, you know, that makes them get so hot that they come out of their clothes. You know, just a hood thing for those who know, those who may seen this happen. But to give a real life example, so she represents the body being so hot that you can't bear clothes, which is lust. Lust makes you come out of your clothes. Lust makes you, if you are able to harness that creative energy, because we see that she is representing, remember, because Leo represents the sun represents harmonization. So she's not necessarily representing the negativity of lust, but the possibility of lust, the possibility of harnessing lust. Because if you don't get overwhelmed and sucked into the vortex of lust and you harness it, what you're able to do is not only tame this great beast, but also harness the creation process. The creation of life and death is able to be harnessed in your bare hands. So not only are we mixing the polarities, the two contrasts, and creating a third element, we're also harnessing the sexual creative energy, right? So this is why I speak so much, you know, on sexual energy and all these things, because we have to learn how to harness it. It's not for us to avoid it. That's what I'm, you know, like I said, a lot of people are out here waiting for a soulmate. A lot of people are out here, you know, being celibate. Are we back? All right, we went through a little disconnection, but I think we're back on. We should be back on now. Okay. So what I was saying, it's not for us to avoid lust. It's for us to harness it. Because if we are able to harness lust and not become a victim of lust, we are able to control the process of life and death on a miniature level, as well as harness the great beast called lust, the great spirit called lust. So you being able to tame the great spirit called lust gives you the ability over life and death and the whole creation process. That's how the energy of lust is able to be harmonized instead of something that takes you over. It can be harnessed and used creatively. This is the source of creativity. The source of creativity lies in your ability to master lust. That is the source of creativity. So for those of us who want to be more creative, who may be experiencing writer's block, may not be getting enough sexual love, or may not be getting enough romance, all this comes by harnessing lust. You need to enhance your lust, not move away from it, but to increase it and harness it creatively. This is how we are able to be creative and do things that are deemed impossible. Now, this phase is Aries. I believe this is the last phase. Yes, this is the last phase. Now we're dealing with the human level, because now we're coming from the creative level, the creation. Now we're dealing with the human level. Someone who has, because now he represents Aries, as we see right here, that's Aries. This is the zodiac sign Aries. You know, Aries, or the first house, is big on self-image. So this emperor has perfected his self-image. Every angle of himself is perfect, or appears that way, because he has harnessed the flame. You see that he holds a bomb in his hand. He's holding a bomb in his hand, which represents his ability to harness the fire. He's also holding a scepter, an Aries scepter, in his other hand. And we know the Aries represents self-image, because we know Aries is ruled by Mars. And we know the energy of Mars, as we saw here, this is the pure, raw energy of Mars, which represents the destruction. But once we get to the emperor has learned how to harness the energy of Mars, so therefore he is able to hold bombs in his bare hand. So his ability to master the energy of Mars and turn that destructive energy into something constructive, that destructive energy is transmuted into something constructive, which allows him to perfect his self-image. So for those of us who want to perfect our self-image, it lies in harnessing the destructive energies of Mars. Just like perfecting lust lies in harnessing the energy of the sun, that creative sexual force being harnessed and not avoided. So the emperor, bearing those flames in his hand, once again, he allows himself to be purified by the flames, harnessing that raw Mars energy. Therefore, it allows him to rule his kingdom. You see, he has an animal, 2 Aries, tamed in the background. He is able to rule over the kingdom by harnessing the destructive force in a constructive manner. This is what transmutation truly represents, right? The harnessing of these energies that appear to be destructive, these energies that appear to be chaotic, but these energies are being transmuted. That fire is bringing purification, and the purification of the fire, of the flames, allows you to bear this destructive, raw, masculine energy in the palm of your hands. The emperor is bearing it in the palm of his hand. He bears the scepter in the palm of his hand, as we see here, in the palm of his hand. And as we go here, she's bearing raw elements in the palm of her hand. And lastly, she's bearing these things in the palm of her hands. So we see there's an emphasis on bearing these elemental forces in the palm of your hand, meaning utilizing these things on a physical level, physically harnessing the raw element of fire and being able to work the contrast together harmoniously. This is why war is necessary, because the war brings about the necessary flames to purify one, to be able to harness their self-image, to harness the ability to rule in the new age, the abilities to transcend the destruction by being the dove. The opening of the eye of Shiva destroys all illusions. To harness the flames gives you the ability to see beyond all illusion. To get in contact with your soul force. To harness the soul force. The whole constellation of the zodiac. Rising your consciousness to levels of cycles that happen every 2,000 years, 20,000 years, and being able to see things before they happen, and also to see the past, to be able to have a greater understanding of the cycles beyond what we consider life and death, our little 100-year cycles. On the everyday level, merging together the contrast, the things that we hate and the things that we love, finding the balance between the two and being constructive with these energies that uplift us and also weigh us down. The weightless and things that weigh a ton, working harmoniously together, elementally and chemically on a chemical level. So there's an emphasis placed on chemistry, alchemy, astrology, numerology, divination, so on and so forth. And lastly, being able to not only create creative energy, but to harness it and use it constructively. So, there we have it. The necessity of war, because war brings in the flames of enlightenment. The flames of purification comes because of war. So yes, we are in times of war, whether we want to call it mental war, whether we want to say the physical war, whether we want to say spiritual war. We are in various stages of war, but instead of us saying what's going to happen next, what's going to happen next, what do we do about it? We understand that this same flame that's coming because of war, we are in war times. This same flame that's causing so much destruction can be creatively harnessed and utilized for a different purpose. And this is for anything. So whenever bad things happen on a worldly level, on a universal level, or just on a personal level, we can always harness these destructive energies and transmute them into something constructive. It's all on us how we harness the energy. What we do with the energy is always on us, regardless of the type of energy that comes at us. So if it's that flame, you can either harness that flame in the palm of your hands, or you can allow it to destroy everything around you. Are you going to harness the flame, or are you going to try to avoid it? But in avoiding the flame, it destroys everything in your cipher because you never stopped it. You have to harness it and tame it. That's how you stop it. You don't go grab a bucket of water and put it out. You learn how to mix the two elements together to create a third element. And from those three elements brings forth the fourth element, which is earth. It's all a natural process of ascension. All right? So, I think y'all get the point. What's up, Jan the Nymph? What's up, Naki? Let me see. So, unless anybody has any questions, we can get up out of here. How can one harness these energies without knowing these things are accessible, but knowing about many past lives? Wait, so you're asking how can one harness these energies without knowing these things are accessible? I mean, are you asking that for yourself? Because you're aware of this, because you're watching a video. So therefore, you are not one of those people who are not aware. You know that you can access this now because I just described the process to you. So you are no longer one of those people who don't know and can't access it because I just gave you the keys. So you're no longer the person that you're asking the question. Now, if you're asking for the public or for the mainstream, this video is not for the mainstream. This video is not for anybody who doesn't understand these concepts. This is not for the mainstream. This is only for those who understand alchemy, alchemists, right? Artists, creators, creatrix. This is only for what chosen. So I'm not speaking to the mainstream. It's of people who don't understand this, But I also have videos, if you don't understand this, then I'm also teaching you how to understand it as well. So, all right. So I think everybody understands. So we'll check up out of here. So once again, I appreciate everybody for tuning in, watching. I'm glad y'all got a chance to kind of look at my art to kind of see where I'm going with this energy, using the energy of death constructively. Let me show you one more time, just in case you didn't see it. One second. There we go. So we got the skulls with the guitar. You can say this is definitely my representation of like a Jimi Hendrix 333 energy. So this is the energy of 333, creativity beyond life and death. Jimi Hendrix was able to channel in the energy of death. That's what made him the greatest, because he was able to harness death and transmute it through music. Right? Then we have the panther, or the cat. The cat, the energy of the cat, being the opener of the portals and guardian of a portal to higher dimensions So that's what the cat represents, the opener of the way. It's like a crossroads energy. That's why it also has that top hat or that pointer hat, which is always representing, you know, Elegba or Zarabanda. Then we have the witch's house. You see she has like a graveyard in the front with the tombstone. So, you know, so this represents the witch. We also got the green, you know, for the fairy kingdom. So the color green with the witch. Necromancy, witchcraft, all these things. Mastery over the earth and the elements of the earth. Right? Then we have the owl, representing the lunar energy with the top hat as well. Representing lunar energy, representing wisdom. Because, you know, we are definitely in the first quarter of the moon. This is where magic is the most powerful in this phase of the moon. In the first quarter, magic is its most powerful, right? So the owl just represents that phase, the first quarter of the moon. And we also have this, you know, the skull with the rose. We know that the skulls and the rose go hand in hand. With the spider webs, we know that that's the energy of Venus. Spiders are the energy of Venus. We know that the skull represents skill or memory, being able to maintain your memory after death. The rose also represents the energy of Venus. The love of wisdom, the love of the energy that happens. Not the energy that happens, but the energy beyond what we can perceive with the physical, psychic senses. Of course, we got a little candle holder with the skull engraved, the flaming skull. And of course, we have the two, you know, the black and the purple representing Saturn, right? So we're just using these for the color. The black and the purple, so that's the energy of Saturn. And of course, we got the candles, not the candles, but the lights represent the fairy kingdom. The fairies with the decorated skull. So, you know, that's that energy of celebration, the energy of the psychedelic awareness. Psychedelic awareness. That's why the third eye is crystallized. Psychedelic awareness. So there we go. Of course, the skull with the rose. So there we go. So I'm just giving y'all a little insight to where I'm going. You know, this is just the first phase. You know, I just picked up a couple things that I thought was interesting. So we're gonna keep it moving. Now I definitely check in with y'all tomorrow. Y'all take it easy. But let me go through these comments one last time. What's up, Phoenix Rising? What's up, Curtis? What's up, the Ein? Right? So we gonna get up out of here. Peace, hotel. Y'all take it easy. Good.